What is happening, YouTube? This is Hayes Anderson, and today we are going to solder together the Sound Steady Modular VID PIX Console. I purchased this from Synthro Tech. They are carrying this, I believe, for Sound Steady. So let's get started on this. I haven't really looked at this yet. I did open it up. Don't really know much about this particular circuit, other than it's using a microcontroller that I know nothing about. Here is the BOM, or the bill of materials. So it looks like we got 11 resistors, 6 diodes, 2 LLC256, no idea what that is, MCP3208, I think I've heard of MCPs before, and a P8X32A-D40, no idea what that is. Look how big that sucker is, 40 pins, oh my goodness gracious. So this is hilarious. This mostly is not a whole lot of components, but we got a 40 pin to solder in. Now, they have sockets for this. I was very tempted to not use the sockets, but decisions. I will say this. I would not want to make a mistake and then have to desolder this, but I do have better tools to desolder things. And the problem with using sockets is that the connections could oxidize over time, develop debris, corrosion, get a little loose, knocked out, and so forth. And then having like a better solder connection is much better way to go. But I'm not going to be knocking this thing around a whole bunch, I don't think. So we'll probably just go ahead and do it the prescribed way and put these sockets in. So what else we got? We've got a bunch of jacks. We've got one stereo and then 4 mono jacks, and then an RCA jack, and then this mini USB jack is one I've never had before. This thing's pretty cool, and that's just for the power. And then we've got a potentiometer, a single pole double throw on-off switch, and a couple momentary switches. So they provide me with white ones, I believe, and I've got some of my own that I can use instead. I'm pretty sure these are the exact same ones, just different colored caps. I thought about maybe going kind of Christmassy with the red and green, but I think the black is going to be a better match. If I had gold or yellow, that would be really ideal. The white ones just, I don't know, don't quite match very well. Call me pedantic or whatever, but I don't know. I like to color coordinate things if you can. If you can, I'm not going to worry about it, but if you can, might as well. Okay, so let's get started, I reckon. So the first thing I will start with are the resistors. And here's the top panel, which I will move to the side for now. And this is the PCB itself. If this doesn't come out very well, I'll just cut it out. Hey, cut it out! That's what I'm talking about. It's really hard. How do they get these in here? That's what I want to know. It's a good tight fit. Okay, wow. That's a super tight fit for all of those components, even though it seems like there's a lot of space. And there's nothing on the back side of note. It's black, so that makes it very hard to follow the traces, but I'm okay with that. I don't think there's going to be any problems with this. Knock on silicone. Okay. These are the ICs and the sockets. And here are the switches that I was talking about. They are white, and they're pretty much identical. I think I'm going to use these black ones. And these are the components that I'm going to start with, minus the standoffs. And I'm just going to dump the rest of this out. So here are our various jacks. That's our stereo jack. These are our mono jacks. RCA jack that's going to take the video signal to the television. Here's a potentiometer. And this very interesting, beastly looking on-off switch. I guess it goes in this way, and wow, that's pretty interesting. And then I've got my power, and then a little 4-pin header. I think that's for programming the main IC, the 40-pin one. Okay, big bag of components. A little crystal oscillator, a little switch, which I'm going to put back here, and then a whole bunch of stuffs. Okay, these I guess are Zener diodes, 3.6 volts, and yeah, these two are just the regular small signal switching diodes, the 1N4148. So it's very important to keep these understanding what they are, because they have very, very different functions and they look very much alike. The resistors are a little bit easier to determine what they are because they're color coded. Okay, so I'm just going to cut these apart, kind of separate everything if I can. We'll get these diodes separated if nothing else. So these are just the regular small switching diodes. Now I've got a whole bunch of resistors and this kind of nasty goopy stuff right here. There we go. What are these resistors? I've got some 270s, 560, 1K, 1.1K, 4.7 and 10K. One thing I really love about this BOM is that you can kind of see which ones are which right off the bat. So I'm just going to try to separate these out. So I believe these two will be the 270. These will be 1K. Here's my 4.7. That's my 560. That's a 10K. And then that should be my 1.1K. Yeah. Now for the fun part. Bending all these to the right length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bend them first, and then just sort of see what they actually are with the multimeter. And this is not where this one belongs. I'm just using it as a reference to make sure that it's going to be all right. Yeah, that's super, 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 super tight. So I'm going to need to get that like really just right on. Okay, so what I do for this is I have a breadboard that is just nicely set up so that I can insert these leads easily, sort of. And yeah, this is 10K, 9.91. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to line these up down here in the order of highest to lowest. And I'm just going to use my finger this time because I want to get this like right tight as possible. And this should be 4.7, close enough. 4.69, 4.67, 4.67 again. Well, actually 4.66, but we'll say 4.665. 4.67. Next is the 1.1K. I believe that was this one. That's quite a subtle difference between 1 and 1.K. We've got two 1K and one 1.1K. I would really like to have somebody explain to me why that extra 100 is needed. Yeah, this is 1.095. See, I'd almost rather have a batch of 1.1s and get that one exactly 1.1. And am I missing a couple here? Oh yeah, the next ones are the 1Ks, these two. I jumped ahead of myself. I didn't get that one bent quite as tight as I wanted, but we'll make it work. 0.987. 0.994. Okay, this one should be 560 ohms. 559. And we are back. It is actually the next day. This is in the morning, and What happened is my camera's SD card filled up with memory and the recording stopped. So all that we really missed is just putting in these resistors. I'm pretty sure I got them correct. Everything's looking pretty good. What I'm going to do next is just snip off all these leads and then move on to the next part. And as always, I've got my bag of lead clippings that I use for my own projects, ready to go. People always advise to be careful clipping these off, but what I found is that if you're actually wanting to save them, then you're going to use a pair of tweezers like this and not have that problem. Something else I've also noticed watching a lot of other videos on YouTube that do this kind of stuff is that it's very common to have your camera stop recording or to think that it's recording and it's not. It's like you kind of have to have some means to be able to periodically check to see if the camera is still recording. But for the most part, I am more worried, or I'm more concerned with getting this soldered correctly than I am with the video actually being recorded correctly. Because this particular kit is not on the cheap side. And one of those went flying off into the 9th dimension. Regardless, I'll find it later. I think I heard where it landed. What can I say? It's clipping leads. Really exciting stuff. Okay, let me see if I can find the one that went flying somewhere else. There it is. Okay, next up are the diodes and the crystal oscillator. So I guess I can go ahead and put this in now, and there's no polarity on this, so it doesn't matter which way it goes in. I'm designating this as the top of the board so this way I can read what it says. Now to solder this, I'm just going to flip this over and tack on one side. There we go. Now here's where something potentially funny can happen. You forget which leg that you did that to, tacked on, and you solder the same one and the thing comes falling out. And it's really good to let that cool down before you clip the leads. Got a little too much solder on that one when I went to reflow, but be alright. Okay, now here's the tricky part. These little diodes. Now these two are the 1N4148 small signal, just simple switching diodes. These are generic diodes, super cheap diodes. But what they are having me do is they're having me flip the leg around. The indication of which side is the anode and the cathode is this little weird backwards K looking thing according to this. Here they're looking like forward Ks, but those are not Ks at all. Those represent an arrow going into a barrier. And the bar is the barrier in this case. You may be able to notice that one of the eyelets is a circle silk screened around it, and that's where you're supposed to drop in the bar itself. So what I need to do is carefully bend this around. Probably would be better if I was using a tool to do this, but I'm okay. These two small switching diodes go into D5 and D6. Now this is actually the first time I've ever bent diodes over this way to do this. First time for everything. So to tell you the truth, I don't really know what tool would be the best to use for that. I think those are going to stay in. A little piece of debris there. Get that out of the way. So if they're going to stay in, I'm going to go ahead and try to populate the rest of these diodes. And these are super important to get in the right. And I am double checking and double checking to make sure that is the correct direction. And it is. But the reason I'm going to do that now is because I can actually get to it. As soon as I put in another diode, I'm not going to be able to easily get to that spot with my soldering iron. I'm just going to try to tack carefully right there, and it will hold it into place. That almost worked. There we go. It's always a little bit of a stress, you get to the final stages, is this going to work or not? That one's loose. I'm going to need to tack it on, but I can get to it with the next one in as well. So in the event that this one is loose as well, I'll be able to just get two birds with one stone. Or as Ricky says, get two birds stoned. Yeah, that one's a bit loose too. Not really though, I don't think. Let me see something here. I'm going to swap those two out. Oh man. That happens. Well, answers my question. That one's in pretty tight. Nope. I'm going to need to tack that one down. Oh well, that was worth a shot. What it is these little Zener diodes are just a little bit thinner than the regular diodes that I put in. And I'm going to alternate to keep the heat off of anyone at any given time. I'm just going to go back and look at everything and make sure I didn't make a mistake. All of the black bands are touching the... Looks good to me. All right. And those are the small switching diodes, and those are the Zener diodes. So what happens if I put those in the wrong way or the wrong ones? It won't work, that's for sure. The voltage regulator is what? LD1117. I don't even know what that is. I'm going to have to go look that up. Okay, so what's next? We got the diodes, the crystal oscillator, the resistors. So next should be the capacitors. And there's only a few. There's only 3. That's awesome. A 10 UF and a 22 UF. Those are microfarads. So here's my 22. So I guess we can start with C1, which is just a 0.1 UF, a 104. And when I first looked at that, I thought it was a tantalum capacitor, but no, it's just a 104. Here's C1. And doesn't matter which way you put this one in. I'll keep that down in place. Then C2 is the 2.2. This one, now these are very important that you get the polarity correct. They could explode. What's the voltage rating on these, by the way? 16 volts. They both should be 16 volts, which is one of the lowest voltage ratings that you get for a capacitor. So that means you don't want to really be throwing more than 8 volts through these, is what that means. Generally speaking, you want your voltage rating on your capacitor to be double of whatever the voltage running through your circuit is going to be. The highest voltage, that is, or really whatever voltage. If there's several voltages, different voltages, then it depends on what voltage is running through that capacitor. But just line the plus up with the plus and we're fine. So what I will do is I will solder the back legs and I will remove the gummy tack. That last one didn't flow very well. Acted like a heat sink. Alright, let's see how those turned out. Pretty good. And I just did a double check to make sure that C2 was the 2.2 and C3 was the 10. Alright, let's get the other leg soldered in. I'm going to go ahead and clip the leads on everything, and then we'll work on the voltage regulator, which is this thing right here. And I'm probably going to go look this up. Okay, this is a 3.3. I see now. LD33CV. Here it says LD1117. I'm sure they're the same thing. It's just a different model number. They're probably both 3.3 voltage regulators. So again, I have no idea what these Zener diodes are being used for. Probably some kind of cool, clever trick. Zener diodes can be used as voltage regulators, but they don't handle loads very well from what I understand. And voltage regulators are, you know, complete circuits that handle everything. Okay, clip leads. What am I doing? Yeah, these leads are how I make traces on the circuits that I use, circuits that I build with protoboard. This voltage regulator is going to be interesting. I'm going to need to bend it. And I guess I'm going to need to bend it right there. I don't think I was provided with my own screw and nut, but I think I can use this one that I have in my stash. So I'll give it a shot. Darn, I kind of took that at an angle, unfortunately. I'm just going to see how that fits in as is. See what kind of adjustments I need to make. See, I'm a little bit off right there, unfortunately. Kind of bent it to the sides a little bit. So I'm really not sure what the point of tacking this down is, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get this in here as it stands. I'm not even sure that I need to, because they didn't provide me with the screw. I think the instructions said that if you're not provided with the dress, don't worry about it, but then it still said something about screwing this down anyway, so I don't know if this is a good idea, but I'll give it a shot. Well, it's going to take me a while to find that, I guess. Oh, there it is. That was lucky. Yeah, I don't know what to say. This is really tough. I think I need to try to rebend this one more time. I'm only going to do this one more time. That might give me the extra clearance that I need to get the backside down even better, so we'll see. It's just not going to fit. Now what I could do is I could just solder this carefully, and that would give it the support that it needs. And I'm going to stick some flux in there. I'm not going to cover up the eyelet there. I'm just going to try to get some solder along the edge right there. What I'm hoping this will do is that if this is indeed needing to be used as a heat sink, then this will bond the heat sink plate here to that ground plane, which may be a bad idea. I don't think so, though. I mean, you're screwing it in with metal, so it's obviously supposed to make a conductive connection there. But what I should do is what's the word? Confirm. I was trying to say confer. What does that even mean? I should confirm that both of these are indeed ground, and I'm sure that they are. There we go. I sure hope that was a smart thing to do. Now on the vent that I need to remove this, it won't be very hard to get that little solder blob out of the way. But I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what the... Oh boy. Yeah, we got room for clearance of the LED here. That is so close. Scary, scary close. Okay, here's the LED. I mean, that's ground on that side anyway, so... Woo! That is tight. I'm going to go ahead and solder that in because I'm afraid if I don't, I'll end up losing it. Okay, I'm going to try to get the LED in straight. I really should drop a little bit of flux down here, but it'll be all right. It's getting very difficult with the camera and the soldering iron. Okay. Wow. Yeah, it's getting to the point now to where I'm going to be hard pressed to be able to use this PCB holder easily. I'm running out of places to clamp on. These are good solid LED legs, which are great for traces. So here's what we got so far. I think next are the IC sockets. I think we'll start with the big one first. What I'll do is I'll just get each one in place, get the corners in, and then we'll do the rest. Do all four corners. So this one is big. Tough angle to get to here, and I can't really see. There you go. Okay, good enough. I will reflow those later. Next is the 8-pin socket. And I might be able to hold both of those together, but I'm just going to do them one at a time. Yes, I'm watching the tip of that soldering iron very carefully right now. Can't quite get in there. There it goes. The problem with doing this is that you burn the flux out. That was a good one. Okay. So that's why I like to add a little bit of flux when I'm doing this, because by the time I get the soldering iron over to where I need to solder, the flux is all burned out. And just double checking everything to make sure I didn't make a mistake with the, and I'm not, I see now, the little square eyelet designates pin 1. But still, you know, once you solder it in, you're like, I start to second guess myself. I think that's pretty good. I don't see any bridges. Those feel really sturdy, solidly in place. So what's next is mostly just hardware stuff now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break, eat some breakfast, and come back and try to finish this up. All right, that was a nice break in between cleaning breakfast. So funny. In between making breakfast, I cleaned the PCB a bit with some alcohol and a brush and some of this awesome paper cloth stuff. And I think what I'm supposed to insert next are the switch and this USB port. And I've also got this little 4-piece header, which I believe is going to be used for like a programmer. I'm not really sure which way I'm supposed to insert this. Probably this way. But I really think I would be better off going that way instead, so then I have more clearance. And you know, if I decide later to change it, I'll just change it. All right, is that lined up? Not really. This is kind of hard to do, actually, to get it just right. Wow, look at that, it went right through the hole. Ouch, ouch, I felt that one. Okay, I think I got it. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, we'll get the rest of them. Now, I may never actually use these pins. We'll see. You need a special programmer, which I know nothing about. This uses something new to me. It's not like a typical Arduino or Teensy type kind of thing. It's some other microcontroller that uses some other weird little adapter that I'll have to buy and then figure out how to use some kind of a compiler to compile the code to do what it needs to do and upload it and change the firmware, whatever, yada yada. Okay, here's the switch. And it is tacked into place, but now I will finish soldering the rest of the conductors, and of course these side ones right here are most likely just support. So the side ones I want to put quite a big well of solder into. And then the power. Little USB port. Now this is where this solder, thin solder, really kind of comes in handy. Let me see, I'm going to try to hold this, because when I add heat it might fall out. Ooh, yeah, it's getting hot. I can feel my thumb getting pretty warm. But right here, this is where this thin solder comes in handy, because these are really tight. And you still want a fairly good size soldering tip for maximum heat transfer. Those look pretty good. I think J9 is this one. That's the video switch. And then here's the potentiometer. And then, yeah, that's the, okay, I see now. I just want to make sure that I know what all these are before I just start going crazy. So this one's going to fit in real nicely. It's mostly going to fit in nicely. I'm going to have to kind of hold it in place, but that won't be hard to do. Let's see about the potentiometer. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and get these soldered in. Let's take a quick look at that. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and finish this. I usually try to go this way because as the solder runs out, you get closer, but I'll be okay. I could actually stand to increase the temperature on this one, but we're all right. So next are all the jacks. And these might stay in once I pop them in, but I think I'm going to need to hold them. They feel pretty loose. That one didn't want to take too well. That's looking pretty good though. Putting a little solder on there like that kind of helps to get the heat transfer going, because these are heat sinks. You know what? I'm going to crank the temperature up a little bit too while I'm at it. These can take the heat. They're mostly just mechanical. In fact, they are just all mechanical. The problem is the plastic. You don't want to melt the plastic. What I would like to do before I put the ICs in place is figure out which pins take power, which pins take ground, and just give this thing power and just make sure that voltage is only showing up where it's supposed to on the ICs. And that should ensure that nothing will inadvertently happen to them should disaster strike. But for the most part, this is kind of a super simple kit to put together. I'd say maybe medium. So, you know, medium is probably not super simple. But if you have a fair amount of experience, this is a real easy kit to put together. Now on fume extraction, at my old place I had a natural vent coming through and I didn't really need a fume extractor. I'm going to need to get one here pretty soon for this place. In case you don't know, the smoke that you see is not burning metal. It's the flux burning off, the flux that's inside the solder. And it's really bad to breathe. And bad to get in your eyes too. Alright, I think that's going to do it. Now I reckon this is the power switch back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a short break I'm going to go figure out what these ICs are, which are ground and power and so forth, and then try to get some power into this and just do a little quick testing. Also, I probably should, before I do anything, try to clean off the board here. I'm going to grab one of these little papers here and douse it with alcohol, and then clean off any flux residue that's left. This is the good alcohol too, by the way, the 99% pure alcohol. The thing about flux is that you don't really have to clean it off. It is advised, it's a best practice to clean it off, but here's the thing. The longer you wait, the harder it is to clean off. So if you're going to clean it off, do it sooner than later. That's really the only rule of thumb when it comes to cleaning flux. You know, should you do it, should you not do it? Well, really the important thing is if you are going to do it soon. All right, that's pretty good. All right, I'm back with more information. I kind of did a little research on what these ICs are. The 24 LC256 is an EEPROM. The MCP3208 is an A to D converter, analog to digital. And the P8X32AD40 is a microcontroller, which is what I thought. But I was absolutely unsure what the other two chips are, and that makes sense in memory, and then an A to D converter. That's probably for the input audio signal, and that will control the little sprites on the screen in different ways. What I also found out is where the ground and power pins are on each one of these chips. So what I want to do is I want to power this up. If we're lucky, we'll see the LED come on. It doesn't mean that, if the LED doesn't come on, it doesn't mean that something's wrong. Probably does though, but it could mean that one of the chips is driving the signal to the LED. I doubt it. We shall see. So I have no idea which way is on or off. I'm going to presume that way is off. I'm not sure, but we're going to plug it in and fingers crossed. All right, not a good sign that the LED did not come on. But again, I have no idea which way is on, and the only way to find out is to trace the circuit here. So I'm trying to think. With this kind of switch, I don't know if it's forward or backwards. I think that this is indeed on right here. So let's see if we have some voltages. Now I'm hoping that this is ground. And let's see what happens here. So that says -3. That says 1.7. And that's nothing. And it's not getting hot. I think this turned it off. So yes, indeed. Okay, so this is on. I'm not sure why. Hang on a second. Okay, 1.7. Nothing. And -3. That's very bizarre. But maybe that's what it's supposed to be. I don't know. Pin 8 should be my voltage. And I don't see anything. No, pin 3 is the voltage. It says -3, and I'm not sure about that, but I'm going to have to trust that it's okay. That's right. VCC is ground. VSS. I get those backwards. So let's see. Pin 9 is VSS. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm getting voltage there. Well, I'm just going to have to cross my fingers and hope that this is going to work. So let's move forward. I am fairly positive I didn't put the LED in backwards, but you know that could also be a problem. I don't think it's in backwards. I'm hoping that that signal is driven by one of the chips, and that's why we're not seeing it. So what I want to do is I want to get these final two switches put in. And I do want to use the ones that I have, the black ones. I think they're just going to look better. So the way that this works is that I first remove the washers. And of course, I changed my mind. Really, what I want to do first is I want to get these chips in here first. And this might take me a while because I don't have any good means to flatten these out. Okay, this part can be very tricky. What I'm thinking is that the Zener diodes are forming a negative volt. I do not understand what's going on with that negative voltage, and it has me greatly concerned. Like if I put the Zener diodes in backwards, that might cause it, but I don't think I did. We keep checking and double checking and double checking and double checking. They seem okay. I will say I wish the instructions would, I mean they can only tell you so much. They really can. They kind of have to be careful what they say because they don't want to be held liable for, you know. It's like, look dude, we're trying to do you a favor by giving you this kit. If it doesn't work, it's really on you. But it would be nice to know about the LED. Of course, they didn't say, you know, like the instructions are just like, hey, plug the chips in, power it up, and good luck. I like to roll a little differently. I like to check things out a little, make sure things seem to sort of be consistently working. So an indicator LED, for example, normally is just pulled right off the power. So as long as there's power, you're going to see the LED come on. Would also be nice to know though in the instructions, you know, what to expect in terms of the voltages. Because if I did something wrong, then these chips are going to blow probably. Uh-oh. Got it. That is a hard chip to put in right there. So I'm just bending these legs, not that far. I'm just bending these legs in a bit so that they'll fit in the socket better. And they can be tricky to get in the socket. They really can. And the bigger they are, ooh, the more trickier they are. Everything is telling me right now, stop, do not power this up. You're going to blow every single one of these chips. This chip could be replaced, but these two, the EEPROM, no, probably not. Those two are flashed. But again, I don't understand what the purpose of the Zener diodes in the circuit are. Okay, those are all in. All right, here it goes. Hopefully we don't see the white smoke. Hey, okay, it works. So yeah, this is being driven by one of these chips. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to power this down. And we're going to get these switches installed. Now in order to do that, we get them in place. And these are, doesn't matter which polarity, it's just the same. It's just a way to temporarily make continuity from something for something else. Okay, so now I think I need to work with the standoffs. I guess this is for visual. So the silver is going to go on the bottom and the black on the top. And then I'm not sure what these little, I guess those, I have no idea what these nylon stands are used for. So I got to check the instructions. I really have no idea what these nylon pieces are used for. Maybe I'll figure it out later. Get these in. We're almost done. I have a TV set that I will test with, and I'm hoping this is going to be super, super cool. Now we get the switches back in. And then when we put the top panel on, now when we get these screws in, now I'm going to show you something cool here in a second. These are rocket sockets, Big thanks to Sid Heresy for telling me about these. Yeah, it is, I think. Nope. Oh, that's why that happened. That messed up. Okay, this is tricky, folks. I guess the idea is you get it close enough. Now we just need to get these two soldered in, and so the thing is I don't have to get it all the way down. So what I think I want to do is I want to try to hold this just so that it's out enough. Get it right about there. Now this is the fun part. Just sit here and hold this while the soldering iron gets hot. And then by the time I reach over here and get everything ready to go, will it still be in position? Right about there. Let's see if we can get the rest of it. Okay, hopefully that will do it with the soldering. So I'm going to go ahead and just get like a big solder blob on this thing and put it away. Now I have enough room to actually get these tightened on. Keep them from wiggling around. Ultimately, the lugs are still soldered directly to the PCB, so they can break off. Okay, now this thing right here is so handy because it allows me to tighten this in well enough without scratching the panel. And I'm not going to, like, hand crank this thing, but I'm going to get it pretty tight. Tighter than I could do it by finger, that's for sure. Wow, yeah, I like the black a whole lot better than the white, because there's no white anywhere on here, so it makes no sense to have white. They should, Synthrotech, you should ship these out with black buttons if you're sourcing the hardware components for these. Cool. I could stand to do another clean down, but for the most part, I think what we need to do next is just get a test going. So let's go ahead and power this up one more time. Make sure everything's cool. It seems to be. The LED's changing colors. If I press this, it doesn't seem to do anything. Yeah, the LED is just going to do its own thing. It's just going to cycle through rainbow colors, which is cool. All right, let's go plug this into a TV and see what happens. Okay, that's a build success. I'm sending an audio signal into the VID PIX from my iPod, and the video out is going to this TV set. Pretty cool. Let's just sit back and watch some of this for a second. This is Hayes Anderson. Thanks for watching. See you next time.